Good evening, everyone. We would like to welcome you to the second day of the Workplace Wellness Conclave, recognizing the World Employee Appreciation Day today. Our latest initiative basically aims to assist in the development of mental health friendly workspaces. The conclave will take place across 2 days, featuring four engaging webinars to hold conversations around mental health and mental well being at workplaces, the hurdles at front, and suggestive measures to overcome these challenges. For our first webinar today, it's on psychological safety at workplace. We have with us Devika Khanna, who is a counseling psychologist, QPR gatekeeper trainer for suicide prevention and employee assistance program service providers. We welcome you to the conclave, Devika. Over to you, and we are ready whenever you are.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for that introduction. One thing I would like to point out is my social anxiety is kicking me, but I'll try to keep that in control. This is my first YouTube live, and like you've already spoken, I'll be covering a topic called psychological safety at workplace. It's a relatively new topic in the field, and I have created a quick presentation. I'll take you through that. I have a few questions that I want to ask you, and I want you to reflect on them. During that moment, when we are reflecting on those questions, you can put in your comments in the chat, and we can the facilitator can read it out for me. So how I'm going to proceed is I'll take 30 minutes in completing the presentation I've created, and remaining 30 to 35 minutes, it could also be 40 minutes, and remaining time will focus on questions and answers. And I'll try my best to answer each and every question that you ask. While I share my presentation, I'll switch off my video because I tend to face bandwidth issues. So I'll switch on my presentation now, and we'll start in a minute. Okay. Can you see my screen? All right. So, is your workplace psychologically safe? An introduction to psychological safety at work. So, before I move into defining what psychological safety is, I want to ask you: do you find it difficult to raise your voice or share your opinion during a team meeting, or if you have an idea, do you find it difficult to share it with your teammates, with your boss, with your manager, or a senior person in the organization? You can put a yes or no in the chat, and we'll look at it later. So before I move on, I'll share my experience, my work experience with an organization. I'm not going to name the organization, but I was hired. When I was working as an employee, I was called out. I was ridiculed for sharing my opinion, and that led to low self-esteem. I experienced issues with my mental health. I was almost on the verge of experiencing burnout because, one, I wanted to share my experiences, but that experience of being ridiculed, that experience of being called out, bothered me, and that also stopped me from learning more at my workplace. Eventually I had to leave that job because I no longer felt safe, and my mental health was hitting the lowest point. So that is one experience of being psychologically unsafe at a workplace. So we'll look at the basics, and then we'll move on. So this concept was discussed by Dr. Amy Edmondson of Harvard Business School. So she defined psychological safety as a shared belief that the team is safe, that a team is safe for interpersonal risk taking. What she means by that is basically, if your team, if your organization is allowing you to speak openly, where you can raise your concern, you can contribute, you can learn new things without the fear of being ridiculed, without the fear of being judged, it is a psychologically safe place. So another definition is a psychological safety is a condition where human resources feel that they're included. Included could be in the sense of decision making, it could be in the sense of participation, it could be in contributing to a project. They feel safe to learn, that they're willing to learn a new concept, that if they question about a project or about a process in the team, they will be answered in a constructive way instead of being judged or made fun of. They find it safe to contribute to the organization in the sense that, say for example, there's a new project that is coming up, and you feel that, you know what, we can do it in another way. And if your workplace is psychologically safe, you will be able to voice that opinion. You know what, we can do this in another way, or this is, I think we should do this project in say 6 months or 3 months, and so on. So you feel safe to contribute to the progress of a project, to the progress of the organization. And you feel safe to challenge the status quo. You, without fear, without hesitation, can raise your voice and challenge things that are not going right, things that you feel can be changed. And you can do all of this without feeling embarrassed, without experiencing that you'll be excluded or you'll be punished in any way. So this is the basic of psychological safety. I'll define it in layman terms. So, if your organization provides you a safe space, a non judgmental environment where you can open up, where you can raise your voice, where you can raise your opinions without the fear of being judged, without the fear of being ridiculed, without the fear of being punished, your workplace is a psychological safe place. And when another aspect of psychological safety is that your sense of identity is not questioned by the or is not questioned or threatened by the organization. So this is the basics of psychological safety. This is the definition, and Dr. Amy Edmondson at Harvard Business School, I defined this concept, and I've also shared her definition on the screen. So, moving on, why do we need to talk about it? Why psychological safety has become very important? Even Google has done a project, a research to understand psychological safety at work. Why do we need to talk about it? Why it is becoming more and more important for both employees, for both human resources, as well as the organization? One of the most important reason why we need to talk about is because it increases employee engagement. So when your organization provides you with a safe space where you feel safe at work, where you find it easier to engage, be it in problem solving, be it in a team meeting, be it in collaborating on a project, or engaging with your customers, peers, stakeholders, and so on, there will be an increased engagement at the work. Um, Also, safe teams inspire employees to be fully present in work. So if you are working in a safe space, instead of checking time, okay, I think the office hours are going to end soon, or dozing off in the middle, or being distracted, you will be fully present in the work. You'll be mindful. You'll be present in the here and now. You'll be engaged throughout your workday. So psychological safety enhances employee engagement. Another reason why we need to talk about is that it fosters inclusive workplace culture. So more than ever, because of so many changes, globalization, enhancement in technology, workplaces are becoming diverse, and everybody needs to feel included. And a very important aspect of psychological safety is inclusiveness. So when a workplace is psychologically safe, everybody feels included, and all the team members, irrespective of their religion, caste, race, gender, color, political preference, are included in the processes of the organization. And this not only benefits the employees, but it also benefits the organization in the sense that both employees, organization can learn from one another, and people from diverse backgrounds, diverse experiences bring in backgrounds, bring in their experiences, which can be a learning experience for both the employees, both the human resources, as well as the organization. Psychological safety also inspires creativities and ideas. Imagine you have an idea and you want to share it. You have an out of the box idea of doing a project, but you're hesitant in sharing it because you feel that your organization will ridicule you, or your boss or your manager will not understand. But if you are working in a psychologically safe environment, if you're working in a safe space, you will feel comfortable in sharing that out of box idea, right? So if your organization is a safe space, you can actually share your creative ideas. The organization will allow the ideas, creativity to flow organically, and the more people feel safe, the more they will be expressive about whatever they think. So in a safe space, in a psychologically safe environment, employees will feel safe in expressing whatever they want, and that can actually foster creativity. And this will also give so when you brainstorm in a safe environment, you can actually pitch in ideas, pitch in concepts that majority of the team members would not have thought of. And those creative ideas can actually be very useful for the organization and the human resource. It improves employee well-being. Imagine you want to share an idea, you want to share, you want to raise your voice, you want to challenge the status quo, or you're concerned about certain processes, but you're not able to do that. How would this impact your mental well-being? How would this impact your emotional well-being? You will, when you're not allowed to express, you start feeling anxious, you start feeling stressed, you feel like taking days off, maybe not attending meeting, not attending office completely, right? And all of that can actually hamper your mental health and well-being. So um when you have a safe space where you are allowed to express, where you can speak up for yourself, it will actually impact your mental health and well-being. It will foster your well-being. And employees can, not just employees, both managers, leaders, and employees, all of them can become more productive because their mental health is okay. Their mental health and stressors, I mean, the mental health is okay, and the stressors can be avoided when there's a safe space. You create brand ambassadors. Why are people attracted to certain organizations and people? Uh, why are people attracted to certain organizations? Why, and they ignore other kind of organizations? Some other organizations, right? Think about it. You are in a placement cell. You are sitting for college placements. All of us have preferences for certain organizations. Why? Because we've heard stories about the benefits. We've heard stories about the perks that those organizations offer. So similarly, when you create a safe space, you're also creating brand ambassador. That is your employees going out and speaking about how good the organization is, how safe the organization is, and how the work environment is. So when you create a safe space, a psychologically safe space, you're also creating brand ambassadors. That is your employees who will go out and share stories about how well the organization is. Well, at the end of the day, everybody likes to talk, and people like to talk and share their stories. So, share their stories and experiences. Another reason why we need to talk about psychological safety is because it reduces employee turnover. That is, so there have been a couple of studies done in this aspect. So a recent study reported that the team members who felt psychologically safe at work are less likely to leave. And obviously, why not obviously, but think about a situation. Why would you leave a group or an organization if you feel valued, if you feel safe there? If you feel respected, why would you leave that organization? And also, when the employee turnover is less, it also benefits the organization in the sense that they will uh, have to cut down on the recruitment process. There will be so recruitment process, if you know, is a very expensive process in terms of human resources and other resources. So an organization, by creating a psychologically safe space, will be saving on the resources that are spent on recruitment process, because psychological safety will ensure that employee turnover is reduced. It also boosts team performances. Obviously, if your employees are engaged, if the turnover is low, if you are inspiring creativity, your team performance will increase. Your productivity as a team, as an organization, will increase. So these are some of the reasons why we need to talk about psychological safety and how it benefits both employees as well as the organization. Before I move on to the next slide, so next slide is basically a series of reflective questions that I want you to think about. And whatever you think about those questions, you can put it in the comments, and Nehal and the Youth for Mental Health team can read them out for me. So, a series of reflective questions. I want you to think about all of those questions, and you can either write your opinion. I would encourage you to write your opinion or share, or maybe just write a yes or no. So, is your workplace psychologically safe? This is not an exhaustive list of questions. These are a couple of questions that I found relevant for this topic. So, do people feel, so just think about these questions. The first question is, do people feel comfortable in team meetings asking about things they do not know or they don't understand, or they do generally try to maintain an image of perfect knowledge about work matters? So in simpler terms, do people, if you do not have a clarity about certain topic, do you actually raise a question, or do you are you hesitant in asking a question and maintain an image that you have a knowledge about that topic? You just think about it. It could be in your college, it could be in your work, it could be in a college, in a school team, it could be in a voluntary group, anywhere. How do you feel comfortable in asking questions? The next question that I want you to think about is, what happens when you make mistakes, when there are near misses, there are failures, there are critical incidents in the organization? Do people distance themselves from the place so that they're not blamed, or they see that mistake, that failure as a learning opportunity, and they learn from it and move on? Think about it in your group, in your organization. It could be a college group, a voluntary group, a youth led group. The third question I want you to think about is, in team meetings, are all team members invited to contribute irrespective of their rank or job title? Or are some members hesitant in opening up? Have there been times when you felt that your contribution and efforts were compromised by others in teams? The next question that I want you to think about is, do people ask each other and team for help when they need it? Do you feel hesitant in asking for help? The last question that I want you to reflect is, in team meetings, do people feel comfortable expressing disagreement or and offering dissenting views? Do team meetings include discussions and debates about work matter? So these are a series of questions that will help you paint a picture of your workplace, and the kind of picture that you paint will help you learn a lot about your workplace. So if the answer if the answer to first question, second, that is, if you find it difficult to open up and ask questions, if you find it difficult, if you distance yourself from mistakes, if you find it difficult to contribute in team meetings, or if you feel that your contributions are compromised and you find it difficult to ask for help, your organization needs to work on its psychological safety. I mean, this information that you are thinking about is very less to say that it's psychologically unsafe, but if you feel that, but it is enough to say that your organization needs to work on psychological safety. So take a minute. You can put, if you want to share, you can write your stories in the comment and we can look at it later. You can write yes or no, or maybe or write words or phrases. All right, I'll move to the next slide, which is 4 stages of psychological safety. So, psychological safety has 4 stages, 4 levels. We'll look at them one by one. This was presented by Dr. Timothy Clark, who's written extensively on psychological safety. So, he spoke about 4 stages of psychological safety. The first one is called inclusion safety. So, inclusion safety basically satisfies basic human need to connect and belong. So members feel safe in a team where they belong, and they are comfortable being present. They want to feel be included, they want to be validated, they want to be accepted in teams. So when we are accepted in teams, when we are included in an organization, we develop a sense of shared identity. um, Inclusion safety allows members to interact with other members of the group without fear of rejection, embarrassment, judgment, punishment, which in the long run can boost confidence, resilience, and independence of the members. Think about a time when you were not involved in a group. How did you feel? You must have felt devalued, you must have felt invalidated, you would have experienced anger, frustration, stress, anxiety, and so on, right? So in order to avoid employees to feel all of that, to feel invalidated, devalued, disrespected, organizations need to work on inclusion safety. And this is the first stage of psychological safety. This is the first step of building a psychologically safe environment. So when we create inclusion safety for others, regardless of our differences, we acknowledge our common humanity and reject that false sense of superiority that is there, that tends to establish an organization. Learner safety, this safety satisfies this level. This is the second stage. So after you've established inclusion safety, you establish learner safety. So once you've established learner safety, you are satisfying basic human need to learn and grow. It allows to feel safe as we engage in all aspects of learning process. It could be asking questions, experimenting, asking for feedback, making mistakes, and learning from them. So when there's a sense of learner safety, people are more willing to be vulnerable, take risk, and develop resilience in learning process. When there's no learner safety in the organization, it stops people from opening up. It basically shuts down employees from learning. And a lot of employees, if there's no learner safety, are hesitant in taking risk. It could be risk in terms of project, it could be a personal risk, and so on. So when we create learner safety for our employees, for our human resources, we give encouragement to learn in exchange for willingness to learn. Everybody is willing to learn, and when we provide them a safe space where there is learner safety, we are actually encouraging them to learn. We are pushing them to do better, to learn without hesitation. So this is the stage two. After inclusion safety, we build learner safety, and after we've built learner safety, we move to contributor safety. So it satisfies human need to contribute and make a difference. So when contributor safety is present, we feel okay to contribute as a member of team. We feel okay in using our skills and ability to make progress, to add value to the organization. The more we contribute, the more confident we feel, the more competent we feel. And when we create contributor safety for others, we are empowering them by giving autonomy, by giving them autonomy, guidance, and encouragement for exchange of efforts and results. After contributor safety is the last level of psychological safety, which is the stage 4, also called as challenger safety. So this stage satisfies the need for making things better. So when there's challenger safety in the organization, employees, human resources are okay with challenging the status quo. They may raise questions like, we can do this. They may say things like, we can do this in a better way, or we can find another way of doing a project. What if we tried this? Why do we do a certain, say, for example, why do we maintain data in a certain way? It allows us to feel safe to challenge the status quo without risk of damaging our personal reputation, without the risk of our identity being questioned. It allows when challenges safety is present, employees feel respected, and they feel that they can dissent and disagree with certain aspects of the organization, and certain aspects and processes of the organization. It allows us to overcome the pressure to conform. Because when challenges safety is not there, even if you have questions, even if you have doubts, even if you want to challenge the status quo, you will give into the pressure to conform, because you will feel, okay, what if I challenge this, I will not be accepted. If I challenge this, I will not be validated, or I might be ridiculed. So when challenges safety is present, it allows us to overcome the pressure to conform, and it also gives us the license to innovate and be creative. This is the highest level of safety, and if challenges safety is present, employees can be vulnerable, and they can experience a sense of vulnerability, and they'll be willing to take a personal risk. So these are four stages of psychological safety. The first level is inclusion safety, where you make sure that the employees, the human resources, are included in different process. The second, after this first stage, which is inclusion safety, is achieved, you move to the second stage, which is learner safety, where you satisfy the need to learn and grow. So in this stage, the employees, the human resources can question the organization, they can give and receive feedback, they can experiment, they can make mistakes and learn from them. When this level is achieved, we move to the contributor safety, which is the third stage. It satisfies the need to contribute and make a difference. An employee can contribute, a human resource can contribute using their skills, their knowledge, their abilities, or any other asset. The fourth stage, the last stage, and the highest level of safety is challenges safety, which satisfies the human need to make things better. It is the support. So when challenges safety is there, employees feel comfortable in challenging the status quo of the organization without they are okay to challenge the status quo without hesitation. So these are the four stages. We start with inclusion and we end at challenges safety. When all of these stages are met, we can call our organization a psychologically safe place to be in. um, Building a psychologically safe stage. So these are the stages of psychological safety. The next question is how organizations can contribute to building a safe space, a safe workplace, or how leaders and managers and bosses can contribute, and human resources can contribute to building a psychologically safe space. The first one of the things that an organization should do, a leader should do, is set the ground rules. So setting ground rules basically focuses on the fact that whenever there's a meeting, for example, whenever there's a meeting, so when you set the ground rules for that meeting, you actually encourage people to talk. You ask people to leave their labels, which could be labels in the sense their position, their sorry, their position as manager or all of that outside the meeting room. And when you set the ground rules, you are actually encouraging everybody to contribute. So in the beginning, in the short term, ground rule, the organization can start with setting ground rules for each meeting, and eventually they can inculcate these ground rules into the organization culture. So setting the ground rules is it's a difficult, but it's a very powerful process to develop psychological safety. The second way of building a psychologically safe environment is to encourage active listening. Imagine how would you feel if you are talking and somebody in the meeting is checking their social media handles or checking their phone or is typing an email. How would you feel? You would feel invalidated, or you would feel disrespected, right? So when we are creating a psychologically safe space, we need to encourage active listening. And active listening, when you encourage active listening, you ensure that people who are contributing in the meeting feel valued, and their ideas can actually make a difference. So when you are, so some of the ways in encouraging active listening could include that although before a meeting starts, all the team members can be asked to switch off their cell phones or put their cell phones on silent. Next way could be showing understanding. So you can so somebody from the team can paraphrase what the person said when you ask, when you, or somebody from the team can summarize what a speaker said. So this is another way of encouraging active listening. Another way to encourage active listening is by asking questions. So once somebody has spoken, you can ask them questions. It could be, or you can give them a feedback on what they said. And if there are certain individuals in a meeting who find it difficult to open up, who find it difficult to speak, the team leader or the manager can ask that person, can actually motivate that person to speak up. These are a couple of ways in which you can encourage active listening in teams. Another way of building a psychologically safe space is developing an open, objective mindset. So all of us, when we are when we sit in a meeting room, all of us have our perceptions, our prejudices, our stereotypes, our thought processes, our beliefs, right? So when we use these lenses to evaluate, to filter out information, and so on. But when we are able to, or when we are able to see, when we're able to understand a piece of information through an open mind, through an objective lens, or when we are able to keep our biases or beliefs under control, we are actually developing an open mind. So so when you're trying to develop an open mind, you try to look a situation from a different lens. You one So initially we view it from our own lenses, but when we are working on developing an open mind, we try to look at the situation from a different lens, a different perspective. So in order to develop an open-minded workplace, some of the things that you can do are encourage team to share feedbacks with one another. So if somebody is talking, you can give in a different perspective, you can pitch in your idea, you can tell them, Ki, you know what, you can do this in another way. Or you know what, I think we can, I've heard your idea, I think we can add this to this aspect to your idea, and so on and so forth. Um, Also help your human resources sorry also help your human resources to learn to respond, how to respond, help your human resources to learn to respond to inputs from other people. Another thing that will encourage people to develop open mind is, instead of criticism, encourage team to focus on constructive feedback. Constructive feedback can do wonders for your team, for your organization. It can strengthen your team, and it can build, and it can also foster creativity and what do you call it, autonomy. Not autonomy, but it can foster creativity. Self-awareness is an asset. I see self-awareness as an asset. And when you are self-aware, when you are aware of your unique personalities, your preferences, your work styles, and when you bring that to the table, you are actually contributing to the diversity of the team. By building self-awareness of your team, you can share how you work. You can talk about how you work. You can share your communication style. You So when you encourage self-awareness, excuse me. So when you encourage self-awareness, you are actually promoting your team to put in their best shoes forward, to put in their best foot forward. Another very important thing that a lot of organizations don't do is share precise information, expectations, and commitments. So when there's sharing of information, there's a little ambiguity in sharing information with the team, with the employees, with human resources. So when you are sharing certain piece of information, expectation, and commitments from your employees, make sure you state them explicitly. You are not hiding pieces of information. You're giving them all the clarity that so clarity in terms of expectations and commitment. So for example, if you want your project to be completed soon, so soon is an ambiguous term. So when you, instead of using things like soon, you can give them a strict deadline. Not a strict deadline, but you can give them a deadline, a date or time as to by when they should submit a project. So we need to be very precise with what information we are sharing, and what kind of expectations we have, what kind of commitment we require from them. This will not just improve productivity of the team, but it will also enhance the trust that is there in the team and the team leader. Another very important thing, own up to your mistakes. So if you have made a mistake as a leader or as an employee, own up to it and see how you can learn from it, how your team can learn from it. So when you're owning up to your mistakes, you are also encouraging your employees, your team members to own up for their mistakes instead of distancing themselves off from that mistake. And with mistakes, with failures, it is important that we see them as a learning opportunity instead of as a learning opportunity instead of um, what do you call it, a ground for criticism. So and when you are owning up to your mistakes, yeah, own up to your mistakes. Get professionals on board. If you feel that you as an organization, as a leader, cannot do much to build a psychologically safe environment, get people who have the knowledge, who have skill set to do it for you. You can get people who have background in psychology, organization behavior, organization development, mental health on board to work with you. So this is and I have a question to you. What else do you think we can add to the list now that you know the basics of psychological safety and the four stages and some of the ideas that I have given to you? Quickly think about what else you can do to make your workplace a psychologically safe space. You can put it in the comments, and then we look at it. Take 2 minutes to do that. All right. So I'm sure some of you have put in some ideas. See, there are no right and wrong answers. Some of the things might work for you, some of the things might not work for you. But you can just quickly put in whatever ideas are coming to your head in the comment section. All right. So this is the end of what I have to present. Now I would love to take questions from you, and I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll switch on my video. All right, so questions.
I'll read out the questions for you. So the first question is, how can employees on an individual level create safety in their workplace?
Okay, so employees at an individual level, so the first thing they can do is encourage open, honest discussions. So a lot of times what happens is that everybody is so anxious, so hesitant in opening up and sharing what their experience is, that they hide. I don't want to use the word hide, but they hide certain aspect of the information and share things which they feel would be okay to share. So when we stop doing that, when we build an environment where we can have an open, honest conversation with each other, that is the first step that an employee should take in building a psychologically safe place. So if you feel that your coworker has not done a project well and you want to share it with them, you want to give them a feedback, but you're hesitant, so you cut down on certain aspect of that feedback and share that aspect of the feedback that will not hurt the other employee. Please do not do that. Give them a constructive feedback and be as honest and open as possible. Another thing you can do at an individual level is be assertive. If you have certain needs, if you have certain requirements, demands from your organization, if you feel that your rights are being violated, make sure you state all of that assertively. You stand up for yourself, you be assertive about whatever you need. So I think these are some of the ways in which you can build a psychologically safe space. And another thing you can do is, if you feel that your coworker is hesitant in opening up, is hesitant in sharing, you can actually sit with them and encourage them to speak up. I think that is something you can do.
Yes.
Before you read out the next question, are there any comments on the last slide that I shared, which is what are some of the things that you can do to create a psychologically safe space?
I'll check. Yes, so the one comment that we have here is the most simplest is being clear about what is expected from the team to help them draw role boundaries.
Right, right. So being clear on the expectations. Right. Thank you. The next question.
Yes. So the second question is, can safety be created through ground or written rules, or should it be a more natural process?
So it again varies from organization to organization. If you feel that there is verbal communication, do have a value in an organization, you can have like a verbal commitment. You can, whenever there's a meeting in the beginning, you can set the ground rules. So say, for example, if I am leading a meeting, I set the ground rules. That is the first thing I do. And I do it on a verbal level instead of writing it down. So I say, for example, tell my co-workers that, you know what, it's a safe space where you can speak up about whatever you want to share, and nobody's going to judge you. And I encourage everybody to speak up. We're all same here. So this is something that I do, and I do it verbally. If you feel that this can be inculcated into your organization culture, you can put it in your rule book, you can put it in a document, and you can share it with everybody. So this is writing it down can be done in the long run. In the beginning, to establish ground rules, to set ground rules for the meeting, I would recommend that you do it verbally and then see what the response is. Because once you write down the rules now, they become very rigid. In the sense, if you want to change it or you want to adapt it to a new situation, that becomes difficult. So setting up new rules according to new situation, that is much more easier to do in a verbal way.
All right. So the third question is, how does better safety impact the workspace and its productivity?
Sorry, I didn't get you. There was
Yeah. How does better safety impact the workspace and its productivity?
all right. So I have covered bits of it in the beginning itself, but I'll cover it again. So if your workspace is a safe environment, it will, one, encourage your employees to speak up, to open up, to share their ideas, to work so your employees will be much more enthusiastic to work towards to progress. And say, for example, if you do not allow your employees to speak up, or if your employees feel that they'll be ridiculed if they speak up about whatever they want to share, they will actually start distancing themselves from the organization. There will be absenteeism. It could be in form of absenteeism. It could be in form of not presenting their ideas in meeting. It could be in form of being quiet, being silent during a meeting. So this will hamper not just your progress, but also your productivity. So when you encourage people to speak up, you are actually engaging them, you're making them more enthusiastic about the work, and this will impact your productivity in the long run. In the beginning, because psychological safety is not just one time process, it takes time to develop it. It takes a period of time to develop it, because you need to reinforce it, you need to build upon it, and so on. So in the long run, it will, because engaged employees are productive employees, and there will be reduced turnover, in the sense that more, so if you are valuing your employees, they're less likely to leave your organization. So yeah, I hope I've answered your question. So the productivity will increase in the long run. In the short term, it might impact productivity, but again, like I said, psychological safety is something that needs to be reinforced over a period of time. It will take a certain amount of time to build a psychologically safe space.
The next question is, so the concept of conformity is a social phenomenon, especially in team settings. So how can psychological safety play a role here?
So conformity is basically following what the group says, right? So when you when you have a opinion which differs from the group, and you know that if I share that, I will not be ridiculed, I will not be judged, I will not be punished, you will be able to do that. There would be initial hesitance, which is there in all of us. Even I am feeling anxious right now. So I mean, you can obviously sense it, but initial hesitance is there in everybody, right? But when we are fostering a safe space where people can speak and raise their voice, they will break that conformity. When they want to challenge the status quo, they will not be that hesitant. They will be able to do that in an easier way without thinking too much.
Thank you for answering that. The next question is, so can psychological safety enhance one's creativity in the organization? And if yes, how?
Obviously, if you're allowed to express your ideas, it will enhance creativity. If you can, so say for example, so if you have a psychological safe space, you can, and there's a project coming up and you're figuring out a plan of action, brainstorming sessions can do wonder, because employees will speak without hesitation, without fear, and they'll express whatever comes to their head. So brainstorming sessions will actually be fruitful in that situation. So you can do brainstorming sessions, you can use different tools, project tools like Kanban board and all of that to, I mean, they're more into like progress tracking, but they can also be used for planning. So in the planning stage, brainstorming and psychological safety will actually help.
Um, so we have the last question now, which is, how can I, as a manager, start to create safety in my team? Please suggest one or two concrete steps for that.
Encourage your employees to speak up. So when you are having a meeting, do not enter that meeting as a manager. Enter that meeting as, say, for example, if your name is, so say, for example, I am the manager and I will enter that meeting not as Devika, comma, manager. I will enter that meeting as Devika, who is thinking about the organization and who is looking to encouraging, not encouraging, but a fruitful meeting or a fruitful discussion. So when you leave that tag outside the door, you will have to do that. And after, or and also outside the meeting, try to have like that a friendly conversation with your employees, a healthy, friendly conversation with your employees. Do not just go when you have work. You can catch up with them. You can check with them how they're doing, how their work is doing, how their mental health is, how their families, and all of that. So you need to build that relationship of trust. So you can have casual conversations with them. You can talk to them beyond work. You can check their well-being, health and well-being, and all of that. I hope I've answered all of your questions.
Yes, the session was very insightful.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you so much, Devika, for coming here today and taking us through safety and psychological safety in workplaces. I'm sure that our audience is taking back a fresh perspective on safety and how it can be created in workplaces. Thank you so much again for the session. And
Thanks.
we will now close the live stream.
Thank you. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can reach out to me via email. How do I share my email and LinkedIn details if that is possible? You can
You
just
can,
search Devika Khanna on LinkedIn and you'll find my profile. So if you have any questions, queries about psychological safety or any other topic related to mental health psychology, you can always reach out to me. And organizational behavior, so you can reach out to me.
thank you so much.